All right, folks, Mark here again, cooking books. Y'all know how to cook the books and bring the info. So I've been studying and I've been researching thoughts. Like, what are thoughts? Right? Like, the question just dawned in my mind. Like, what are thoughts? What exactly is a thought? And what is the nature of a thought? And in my research, I found that thoughts are energy in motion. That's all thoughts are. Thoughts are energy that is in motion. And the reason, and where do thoughts come from? Everywhere and nowhere. Thoughts just pop in. Sometimes you ever sitting down and a thought just pops into your mind. It pops in, pops out. So thoughts come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, right? Uh, but what is a thought? And again, thought is energy. It's energy that is in motion. And how thoughts work? You think of a radio, right? Because in searching for what are thoughts, I came across AM amplified modulation, and FM frequency modulation, right? And I realized that thoughts are the most, what I can compare a thought to is a wave, right? A radio wave, and radio waves are everywhere. They're everywhere. They travel, and they're called frequencies, right? And I thought about that, and I said, okay, so now I'm starting to understand our brain. What can I use to compare it to get an understanding? Our brain is like a computer processor. A processor on a computer, what the processor does is it interprets and executes electrical signals that are being fed into it. So an electrical signal is fed into a processor. That processor, through a series of actions and a series of steps, uh, decodes, executes, interprets whatever that information is that's fed into it via electrical signals. And I thought about, so I'm reading about radio waves, I'm reading about computers and processors, and I'm starting to understand. Okay, so our thoughts as human beings are just like radio waves uh, are being fed to us, right? Like your radio is being fed a wave, which is called a frequency, from a particular station, a radio station. So a radio station is feeding your radio, your device, a particular frequency, and the processor in that in the radio interprets and executes and translate that information into what we call sound or music. And I thought about that, and I said, okay, so our thoughts are not our thoughts. No different than the radio, the music that's coming out of the radio, it doesn't belong to the radio. It belongs to the radio. It comes from the radio station, but is translated or processed by the radio. And then we get the physical reality, which is the sound, the music. And I thought about that, and I said, okay, so now I'm starting to get some. So our thoughts are frequencies, they're energies. They're energies that's in motion, and they're being signaled to us. They're being sent to us, right? An electrical signal that is being sent to you is your thoughts. So then that means your thoughts are not your thoughts. What led me to this is the book of Isaiah. In the book of Isaiah, God says, your thoughts are not my thoughts, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. As far as the heavens are from the earth, so are your ways from my ways, etc., etc., etc. And that led me on the quest to find out, well, what is a thought? And in my research in physics and the sciences, I understand that a thought is energy in motion. Very simple, in the simplest form. A thought is energy in motion. Okay, what is this energy that is in motion? It's called a frequency, or a way that you can understand it or compare. What's a comparable is a frequency, which is a wave, a radio wave, amplified modulation, AM, FM frequency modulation, and it just yeah. So our thoughts are not our thoughts. They're actually signals that's being transmitted to us, that's being fed to us. We're the radio, we're the device, our brain is the processor, and there's electrical signals. These electrical signals are our thoughts that's being transmitted, being sent, being fed into our brain, the organ, which is the device that interprets, executes, and bring into physicality or into reality those thoughts. Pretty interesting, right? So I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay, this is starting to make sense to me. Now, Where does these thoughts come from? Thoughts come from, as I said it before, everywhere and nowhere. Why everywhere and nowhere is because they pop in and out. Think of a strobe light just popping in and out, off and on, off and on. Kind of like, again, with bits. You have bits, you have in a computer, you have 32 bits, you have 64 bits, gigabytes, and they're represented by ones and O's, and they pop on, off, on, off, on, off. And depending on the pattern, that's how you get messages and so on and so forth. And I'm no computer whiz, it's just basic stuff I kind of read about. But so thoughts pop in and out, and they're everywhere. So they come from everywhere and nowhere, right? And then as I researched, it led me to understand that we think, again, I like to use analogies. Think of a fish swimming in an ocean. The ocean would be its ecosystem or ecosystem. The ocean and everything in the bottom of the ocean would be the fish ecosystem. And that fish is surrounded by liquid, right? It's in the ocean is liquid, and it's constantly swimming around in that liquid. Well, you and I, if we think about the planet, the universe, the planet, our planet rests in a reservoir of electromagnetic fields. We all, as individual, reside in our own individual field of potentiality or potentials. The word potential means capable of being or becoming. It has the capability of becoming, the possibility of being. That's the word potential. So we as human beings, like a fish, we are swimming in our own reservoir, our own pool, our own repository, our own chamber, our own lake of potentials. And those potentials are, in terms of physics, would be called electrons, neutrons, protons, quarks, microscopic subatomic entities. And these entities are what, again, matter. And these matter are energy. And so we as individuals, you, me, we all have our own personal field. The planet rests in a field of potentiality. You and I, as individuals, have our own unique field. You can call it your aura, or you can call it your magnetic field. We all have our own magnetic field. That field is a field of what's called potentials. The reason why I call it potentials is because within that field is where our thoughts reside. That is the streamline, or that is the means by which our thoughts are constantly being fed into our processor, which is our brain. And the reason why I call it potential or potentialities is because those thoughts need a device, which is our brain, a mechanism to manifest into what's called reality. So if you get a thought, an idea, an inspiration, it's processed by your brain. That brain transmit that information through your CNS, your central nervous system. Your central nervous system then transmit that information by means of your dendrites throughout the rest of your body, and you behave accordingly. And you bring, if you do reverse engineering, you go back, you reverse engineer what I just said. That thought that fed into the device of the brain, into the CNS, into the dendrites throughout your body, which inspires you to become your Beethovens, become your Michael Jacksons. This is how a thought becomes a reality. So we all reside in our own reservoir or pool of potentialities. That means there are thoughts that are being fed to us that have the potential to become materialized, to become realized, to become to fruition, to manifest. And the only way a thought can manifest is by the device, which is you and I. We are devices. Our brain is a processor, and we are a device. And so therefore, if we can find the right kind of thoughts and harness those thoughts and allow them to be fed into our organs which is the brain, and to be translated and transmuted. That's the word. Thoughts can be transmuted into reality. I'll say that again. An immaterial thought, a thought that is immaterial, immaterial thought can be transmuted into what's called our reality, which is our, and it expresses it. So Edison transmitted a thought into a physical light bulb, right? Ford transmitted a thought into an automobile, right? Transmuted, excuse me. So again, Beethoven transmuted musical frequencies into composition, right? Compose beautiful music, right? So you and I, we all dwell in, again, our reservoir of potentials. And that reservoir is our magnetic field. And in that field lies thoughts. Now, they're good thoughts, they're bad thoughts, they're thoughts nonetheless. Which ones we process and let become reality? Well, that rests on your volition, which is your cognitive choice. Till next time, y'all know what I'm going to be doing, cooking books. Peace.